Good morning. It was a quiet afternoon in Königsberg when I, Immanuel Kant, found myself at a marketplace, surrounded by the usual bustle of life. Yet, on this particular day, a merchant approached me, his demeanor not of the usual assurance that one might expect from someone of his station, but of internal conflict. He asked for my counsel on a matter that seemed simple on the surface, but I knew held deeper implications. "Professor Kant," he began, his voice hesitant, "I stand before a decision that I believe could bring great personal benefit. I have been offered a contract that promises substantial profit, one that would secure my family's future. However, I have also come to realize that accepting this deal might harm another, a fellow merchant who has made decisions I deem imprudent. Am I wrong to consider this offer, even though it could cost another man?" I regarded him with a steady gaze. The question was not as simple as it seemed. It revealed, at its core, a moral dilemma that we all must confront in the choices we make. I responded not with an answer, but with a question, as is the proper method of reasoning. "Let us consider your decision more deeply," I said. "If every merchant in the land were to act as you contemplate, what would the result be? What kind of world would it create?" The merchant, taken aback by my question, began to contemplate. "Well," he said slowly, "it would likely be a world where each man acted in his own interest, without concern for the welfare of others. A world in which every merchant pursued only his own gain, regardless of the consequences for others." "Precisely," I replied. "And do you believe such a world could sustain itself? If every individual followed this path, would trust still exist between merchants? Could trade continue, or would it collapse?" The merchant's face softened with realization. "No, I see now. A world built only on self-interest would unravel. No one would trust anyone else, and the entire system of commerce would collapse. If everyone acted this way, there would be no foundation for trust, no means to ensure that agreements would be honored." "Indeed," I said. "The essence of morality lies in the question, could your action, in this case, be willed as a universal law for all? If you choose to act in a way that undermines trust, and if this action were universalized, would the very fabric of society remain intact, or would it disintegrate?" The merchant, though initially puzzled, now appeared to understand the depth of the moral question before him. "I see," he said quietly. "If my action were universalized, it would destroy the very foundation of the trade I rely upon." "Correct," I affirmed. "This is the cornerstone of my principle, the categorical imperative. A morally permissible act is one that can be willed as a universal law, one that could be enacted by all without contradiction. A lie, for example, would not be permissible, for if everyone lied, the concept of truth itself would be meaningless. Similarly, if everyone acted purely out of self-interest, trust would evaporate, and commerce itself would cease to exist." He stood in silence, processing the weight of my words. The dilemma was not merely about immediate profit or loss, but about the long-term implications of universalizing his choice. I continued, "It is not enough to act in a manner that benefits you alone. Your decision must align with the rational principle that governs moral law. You must ask yourself, if my decision were a law for all, would it create a world of harmony, a world where actions are guided by reason and respect for the dignity of others?" He nodded slowly, as if the fog had begun to clear in his mind. "So, I must consider the consequences of my actions, not just for myself, but for everyone. A decision that benefits only me at the expense of others can never be justified." Exactly, I said. The true measure of any action is whether it can be willed as a universal law, not whether it benefits you personally in the moment. A decision that creates a world of justice, fairness, and reason is the only moral decision. The merchant, now fully enlightened, walked away with a new understanding. I watched him disappear into the crowd, knowing that for him, the path to moral clarity had been illuminated.